Welcome to The Explainer. If there's literally one topic dominating global headlines, boardrooms, and dinner tables today, it's the race for AI supremacy. We hear about it constantly. But how well do we actually understand the playing field? Today, we're going to decode the complex, rapidly evolving, and frankly heavily misunderstood dynamics of the US-China AI race. We'll break down the differing strategies, the structural crises driving them, and the surprising paradoxes underneath it all. Okay, let's dive right in.
So here's the multi-trillion-dollar question. Is China beating the US in the AI race? It's the question policymakers and tech CEOs are literally losing sleep over. But to truly understand what's happening, we actually need to flip this premise completely on its head. The reality is, they aren't even running the same race. As we're going to see today, these two global powers have entirely different goals, different philosophies, and completely different metrics for what winning actually looks like.
Let's lay out the core thesis right off the bat. In the US, specifically Silicon Valley, the main ambition is the quest for artificial general intelligence, or AGI. This is the pursuit of a super-powerful, superhuman intelligence. It's a massive, almost philosophical goal. But contrast that with China. Their strategy? It's not about waiting around for some sci-fi supercomputer. It's all about immediate, real-world utility and deep economic integration. They want AI in your hands, in their factories, and running their economy right now.
Section 1. AI in the wild, beyond the laboratory.
Okay, so what does this application-first strategy actually look like in the real world? Well, if you walk the streets of major Chinese cities today, you're confronted with a completely different reality than what we see in the West. AI is absolutely everywhere. You've got driverless cars confidently navigating traffic. You have physical robots patrolling streets and serving food in restaurants. Heavy automation is completely running factory floors. And maybe the most interesting part, everyday citizens are actively integrating highly creative AI tools into their personal lives, like for their kids' education. It's just baked right into daily life.
There's actually this wildly funny anecdote from the sources that perfectly captures how integrated and kind of bizarre this adoption can be. There's a mother in China who bought an AI translation mask to help her kids practice English. She speaks into it in Chinese, and it outputs her exact voice in English. But here's the kicker. The device literally looks like the mask the villain Bane wears in the Batman movies. She just casually wears this around the house to talk to her kids over breakfast. You really have to be fully committed to the tech to do that, right? It's hilarious, but it shows this intense level of grassroots enthusiasm.
Section 2. Survival Tactic, Solving Structural Crises.
Now you might be wondering why go all in on this? Well, this widespread deployment isn't just some fun novelty. It's a necessary survival tactic for looming macroeconomic emergencies. You see, the Chinese government is relying heavily on AI because their population and workforce are aging incredibly fast. Plus, younger generations are increasingly declining to have kids. So how do you fix a massive, shrinking labor pool? You aggressively deploy AI and intelligent factory robots to maintain your economic efficiency. For China, AI isn't just cool tech, it's demographic survival.
And this survival tactic goes way beyond the factory floor, straight into healthcare. China faces massive inequities in healthcare access between its modern urban centers and its vast rural areas. There simply aren't enough human doctors to go around. So, what's the structural fix? Deploying AI doctors. By utilizing virtual healthcare, they're actively trying to bridge this massive divide. It's a prime example of AI being viewed as the ultimate problem solver for the state's biggest, most existential challenges.
So how exactly did we get here? Let's track the timeline. The top-down push actually started over a decade ago. In 2014, President Xi Jinping specifically targeted intelligent robots as the future. That formalized into a 2017 plan aiming for total global dominance by 2030. And for a while, it was working out perfectly. China led the world in facial and voice recognition. But then, 2022 happens. ChatGPT hits the scene and completely blindsides Chinese policymakers. They just weren't prepared for generative AI. Yet, fast forward to 2025, and we see the explosive, rapid rise of the Chinese AI model DeepSeek, which proved they could bounce back with astonishing speed.
But here's the thing. That 2022 ChatGPT shock, it wasn't just a tech surprise. It was a deeply political one. Generative AI fundamentally threatens the Chinese government's tightly controlled information ecosystem. I mean, these models ingest the entire internet and spit out unpredictable answers. For a state that relies on strict censorship and definitely doesn't want citizens asking chatbots about politically sensitive historical events, generative AI presented a massive immediate threat to their entire political model.
Which brings us to a genuinely staggering number, $5,600,000.
That is the incredibly low cost to train the DeepSeek model that emerged in 2025. And it performed just as well as leading American models that cost exponentially more to build. Analysts call this an open-source Sputnik moment. It proved that, despite being blindsided by generative AI, a previously unknown Chinese startup could rival Silicon Valley on just a fraction of the budget. Absolutely wild.
Section 3. The innovation equation, weighing the advantages.
Let's do a quick, balanced breakdown here, because the Chinese tech sector operates under some intense structural pros and cons. First up, innovation. The long-standing stereotype, which experts say is pretty accurate, is that China is phenomenal at scaling, taking an idea from 1 to 10 and applying it everywhere. But they struggle with the 0 to 1, that initial breakthrough discovery. Second, hardware. Despite pouring hundreds of billions into domestic alternatives, Chinese AI is still heavily reliant on American chips, specifically from NVIDIA. And third, talent. China produces brilliant researchers, but the restrictive environment leads to a huge brain drain, with top talent fleeing to the US.
You see, the government desperately demands innovation, but their top-down political actions often end up stifling it. There's this constant chilling effect because regulatory red lines are super uncertain and can shift overnight. Any public AI has to undergo strict political safety testing. On top of that, the state actively blocks major global deals. For example, they recently blocked Meta's $2 billion acquisition of a hyped Chinese AI startup called Manus. And after that, the founders suddenly found themselves facing travel restrictions, blocked from leaving China. That kind of unpredictability, it makes for an incredibly tough business environment.
So how do they handle this tension? One analyst hit the nail on the head, summarizing their dual strategy perfectly. The Chinese government is trying to control what AI says, but unleash what it does. Think about it. If you're building a chatbot that talks to citizens, you are heavily censored and restricted. But if you're building an industrial robot or an automated factory system that doesn't deal in political info, you are aggressively unleashed. Basically, they want to have their cake and eat it too.
But unleashing what AI does actually leads to perhaps China's greatest long-term advantage. Because they have AI operating in the physical world, they're generating an absolute ocean of fresh data. While Western developers are starting to literally run out of internet text to scrape for their lab-bound models, China has AI in millions of everyday products, cars, robots, factories. This creates continuous, real-world application loops, generating massive amounts of fresh training data every single day. It's a monumental competitive edge that's really, really hard to replicate.
Section 4. The Trust Paradox, Society and AI. We've talked a lot about governments and businesses, but what about everyday people? How do they view this technological revolution? The contrast here is honestly fascinating. In the US, the public conversation is fraught with anxiety, right? We see a real fear of job loss, widespread doomerism about AI taking over the world, and significant grassroots pushback. But in China, the vibe is completely different. The public largely feels excitement, because AI is so focused on utility, making commutes faster, delivering food quicker, making goods cheaper, citizens see tangible daily improvements. They largely trust that the tech is there to make their lives better, not destroy them. And here is the ultimate irony of this whole situation. Those exact same authoritarian controls we just talked about, the ones stifling business innovation and terrifying founders, are actually creating immense public trust. Because the Chinese government is so heavy-handed, the average citizen paradoxically feels completely safe. They trust that the state will simply never allow AI to get out of hand or destabilize society. Meanwhile, America's freewheeling, highly innovative environment is exactly what's driving its public's deep fear and backlash. It's a wild paradox.
So bringing it all together, I want to leave you with a crucial question to consider. We don't know the exact future of this technology, but looking at these two completely divergent paths, we have to ask, does the ultimate power of AI lie in creating superhuman intelligence, like Silicon Valley believes, or does it lie in perfecting everyday utility and structural efficiency, like Beijing is betting? The answer to that question will likely determine who truly wins the global future. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this helped you see the full picture.